talking about consistency and inconsistency for aspiring content creators, whether that's on a platform like YouTube or Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, whatever people do in terms of starting content, wanting to build some content, possibly build a career out of it on any platform. So consistency and inconsistency is something that a lot of content creators struggle with, on how often to post or what to post or when to start, or understanding the longevity of what it is that they're trying to do. In the example of my YouTube channel, I started this channel at age 21, July 28th of 2015. And so I just hit the 6-year mark a couple weeks ago. And I started with a bunch of videos right away, and then I scaled back after a couple months. I uploaded maybe 70 to 100 videos within the first couple weeks, just cranking them out. Scaled back a little bit because I kind of rethought what I wanted to do, tweaked it instead of just kind of overloading it with content right away. And then a couple years went on, and I was posting content, but then scaled back, and then came back for a bit, left some videos, scaled back, and then came back for a little bit again and kind of did the same thing up until last summer of 2020, when I went into that summer at 25 years old, turned 26 on June 12th of 2020, and then this year, 2021, June 12th, turned 27. So within that last year and couple months, I've been really cranking out a lot more videos. And part of the thing with consistency and inconsistency is that there's a balancing act with anything, and there's trade-offs. So part of the reason that I'm cranking out more videos now is because at 27, I'm a lot older and more sophisticated and wiser about the world than 21. I'm more nuanced and sure of what I want to say and how I want to say it, and what kind of content I want to do, and just the impact of things too. Not that there's a bad thing with starting and just putting out a bunch of content and just going for it, but there's also a maturity to things. There's an understanding of angles that you didn't see at a younger age, and so that stuff can be important depending on you as a content creator and what you want to do. So take the example of someone doing a red pill video. An 18-year-old kid, an 18-year-old guy, he might come across red pill for the first time and go through red pill rage. So the state of realizing what you were told about society and relationships and marriage and women was not what you were told, but it's actually something completely different. So the 18-year-old that comes across red pill, whether that's from heartbreak or just personal experience he has, he might be in a state of lacking clarity on certain things. So he comes on and creates a bunch of red pill videos that's actually very anti-woman and woman-hating in aura and how it comes off to people, because he's in that state of red pill rage. And so the content suffers because of that, whether that's the first impression or whether that's just the content building over time. And you would hope that most people wouldn't just care that much about a first impression, to where if the person grew with their content, then they wouldn't like hold it against the person. But a lot of people are going to be held to those kind of things. The first impression of the video they came across, or the age you are, how you look, or how many subscribers you have, that indicates to them how important this person even is. All of that stuff matters. So knowing what you want to do, what you want to start, how you want to start it, when you want to start it, is very important with consistency and inconsistency. I've mentioned before on this channel too that when I was in high school, I was student body president senior year. I did the morning announcements my junior year. Junior and senior year, I would do the morning video announcements, audio announcements. I'd lead the events on stage at rallies and just certain events in front of 2,000 plus people between our school, which was a private Catholic school, all guys. We had our sister school, private Catholic school, all girls, and we'd have events for both, whether that was both schools together and the parents and the alumni for some big thing. And I was ASB president at the time during senior year, and so I have plenty of public speaking experience. So my point with that is that if I tell somebody that I want to get into stand-up comedy or music or motivational speaking, someone might just have the impression, oh, well, if you were anybody good at what you say that you're good at, you would have a certain amount of followers or subscribers, or I would have heard of you by now. As silly as it sounds to lay out that example, that's kind of how people think. If you were good at music, for example, you would be on the radio instead of a street performer out here at the beach. So it's like, which, you know, you can forgive that kind of thinking up to a certain age because we're all learning. We never stop learning. It's a day-to-day process, but some people really are like that. Well into their 30s and beyond, they really don't think of the layers of, well, who makes these people famous? Or maybe someone knew somebody. Someone had a connection with like a record label, or so it's like a family connection, or right place, right time. They get discovered because they were walking down the street when that certain person that was a talent scout was walking down the street. Had they got in the car 5 minutes later, they don't even meet the person. Or the content grew exponentially. So yeah, they did start with 0 subscribers, 0 followers, and it took forever to get 5,000, then it blew up from there. And so this person that just has this kind of mentality of, well, that person's on the street performing, therefore that's nobody important, versus, well, I heard this song on the radio, therefore that's somebody good. You get to a certain age and you just kind of wonder how people are still kind of in that mentality. So when it comes to something that I want to do, I've tried doing music before, and when I say try, I don't mean try in terms of, oh, I think I'm more talented than I am, and I always say I'm going to post something and never do. I've actually tried with other people where I have a good flow to how I speak, and whether I hone that in with singing or rapping or however I want to hone in my voice, I've never practiced it enough with a producer in the studio to really get something going. But I've had friends that produce music and they've spent years getting good at it, and then I have the speaking experience, the public speaking, the flow. I'm a good writer, and so I've had people before, it's like, hey, let's collab on something, let's collab on an album, let's collab on music. And what always happens is when you work with, whether it's your friends or someone you meet, we put something out, it gets 100 views, and instead of seeing like, oh yeah, like that's awesome, like 100 people viewed it, whether it's our friends or family, even if they don't have to like it or support it or pay for it, but it's our first thing. If it was that easy, everyone would have this full-time career, but it's our first piece of content putting it out, our first track. We got to get better, and we got to get back in the studio and re-record and do all of that and work on vocals, work on syncing stuff up, editing. But every time you work with somebody like that, they always think, well, 100 views, they get discouraged, right? Their music is no good. They didn't produce something of any value. Like, we didn't blow up the first day and make millions on a tour, so like, why even do a second track, because we're wasting time. And in order to, like, if you really want to do music for a full-time career, it costs a little bit of money for Pro Tools or for the equipment or getting into a studio to make it professional sounding, because if you want to do it professional, you got to get to the point of doing it professional. So that's going to cost a little bit of money. But when you're working with people, say it's you with the vocals, or you with the songwriting, you that's a rapper, you that's a musician, singer, and you're with somebody that's a producer, or you have a band of a bunch of guys together, a bunch of friends from high school, college, or wherever, they think of it like, well, they didn't make any money the first month, so then the band ends up having these arguments and disagreements, and they break up because they don't really see the point of working for 5 years without pay. And so when it takes a little bit of money to get into the studio to record it, well, we got to work jobs in the meantime. So sometimes you just have this misunderstanding with people on what the point could be, and they just don't get it. So the chemistry's not there. Whereas, for example, if I tell someone, I don't talk to my family about my YouTube channel because there's really no point, because they just see you as like little Jeffrey in the back room, 5-year-old kid playing with toys. You know, love them and keep the relationship, but keep them where they need to be in terms of the context of what you're trying to do as an adult. Say, for example, that YouTube had a big advantage that if you had some super high quality camera and a studio that's soundproof and professional, that was some sort of ticket to just blow up on YouTube very fast. Now, that's not always the case. We see plenty of people with Android phones like mine doing well on YouTube, and we see plenty of people with high quality equipment that don't go anywhere. A lot of it is you as a person, a lot of it is the content, a lot of it is the YouTube algorithm, a lot of it is what they choose to promote and not promote. There's a lot going on with that. But the point of that being is that someone can have all the technology and not make it, for example, or someone could have very little and they could make it. There's so many factors that if I go and try to convince a family member, in the example I used of if the high quality technology was a guarantee for me to blow up on YouTube and make a bunch of money, I could go and ask a family member, hey, can I have $10,000 for this really nice camera? They're gonna look at you like you're crazy, especially as a grown man now, that you're just gonna ask money for something that you wanna do. They're not gonna see the vision, nor should they give you that money. I would never ask a family member for $10,000 for a camera for a YouTube channel, but the point being, if they don't see the vision, and then I take my Android phone because it's what I can afford, and I just blow up on YouTube that way, and then I make my money, a lot of times that same family member or that same friend is gonna come back to you like, well, how come you didn't tell me? It's like, well, because you just don't see the vision when there isn't money, when there isn't followers, when there's a certain level of consistency or inconsistency to how you're judging what the point even was. So they're not even gonna see that me hitting over 2,000 YouTube subscribers, a family member would just ask, well, how much money does that bring in? They're not even aware that you can even put something out there that other people resonated with. It might have helped other people, and the money can come later. It's not just about, hey guys, I'm only here posting this YouTube video so that you hand me $1. I mean, that's obviously the intention of putting out YouTube content and monetizing it. Sure, you'd like to make a little bit of money to help your life pay for bills, but it's not just like this person needs to be a paycheck. It's not like, oh, every subscriber needs to pay me money, otherwise this content's worthless. It's bigger than that. So if that was some guarantee that if you had this high quality camera that you were to blow up on YouTube, you could just go to your family member and say, hey, could I have $10,000? And they're just not gonna give it to you. But ironically, had they given you the $10,000 and you blow up on YouTube and make even more money, you have even more money to help your family out for the rest of their lives. But they just don't see it that way. They're not gonna see it as an investment. They're just gonna see it as another one of your crazy ideas. Oh, you're always trying things and don't finish. Oh, you're little Jeffrey playing with toys at 5 years old in the back room. They don't see you as a grown man. They're not gonna see if $10,000 was this guarantee for you to blow up on YouTube, they're not gonna give you that money because to them, the vision is not there for them. So that's something that you have to go do through your own consistency or through your own inconsistency, depending on the timeline of that, which is ironic because it takes a little bit of money to make a little bit of money. So if your family member really believed in you and just gave you the money for this high quality camera that ended up blowing up your YouTube channel, you could just make so much money to give back to them, but they're not gonna see it that way. So that's what I'm saying about people that want to do music, or in my case, music, stand-up comedy, motivational speaking, whatever I want to get into. Sometimes it takes that certain number of followers or subscribers or money to hit the point of exponential growth. Ironically too, tying it back into what I was saying about the age thing, you can post a piece of content at age 21 and people around you, these family members, these friends, whoever, they're just seeing it as a bunch of failures stacking up because that's just their mentality. Well, where's the money? How much money do you make from that? So you could go from 21 to 29 through your whole 20s, really trying to work at it. You're not yielding all the money right now, and they just see it as failures. So they're not really trying to help you out. They're not even mentally thinking that you could go somewhere with it. They're just seeing it as failures, which is ironic because you're putting out the consistency in order to get better. That's the same thing I was saying about working with friends on music. It's like if it gets 100 views on SoundCloud, the first song, well, it's the first track we've done. It's the first song that you've produced. It's the first track that I've made as, whether it's a rapper or a singer or however I'm even finding out my own vocals. You're not gonna blow up with one song. But see, they're just gonna see it as failures and then they don't go anywhere. But how do we go anywhere? We might have to put out 20 songs that suck, quote unquote, before we get the one hit, before people start going, oh wow, I see the consistency of what you're doing. And so trying to balance when's the time to start, when to strike, how much consistency do you put in before you believe you're wasting time or when you pull the plug. It's a lot of questions that you have to go over, because these are things that you have to decide on how much time you want to put in. How you guys doing? Good. Oh, thanks. Yeah, I'm growing it out right now. Oh, yeah? How's it going?
My brother said to me the other day, what'd you do, grow your hair out? And I said, no, I let it fall out.
Right, so it's just one at a time, keeping what you got, huh? So this is the next day after the previous part of this video. Had a customer come up, so I didn't just randomly change buffs and a different shirt. But going along the lines of the topic of this video, someone actually gave me this microphone, which I'm testing out now for the remainder of this video and for future videos, that goes back into what I was saying about consistency and inconsistency. Is perfect timing when I mentioned the technology aspect of whether that would blow someone up on YouTube. So say this microphone just had this magic ability to give you a bunch of subscribers, but say you didn't have the money in order to purchase that microphone. So you're trying to convince that family member you live with, or that friend, or just whoever, that you are owed an investment, or you're worth an investment, you're worth someone investing money into you. Well, they're not necessarily going to see that vision if there's not proof in their head of that vision. So that's what's kind of hard with consistency and inconsistency, is because yes, you've got to be consistent to a certain point, but you've got to be at a certain level to even know what you're talking about, to want to put out the content in that way. And like I was saying with the street performer, they could be a very talented musician, but they don't have the connection that someone else might have to a record label, or however that person became famous, whoever they know and whatever deal they made. The person on the street just doesn't have that. So how long do they ride the aspiring music career before they have to get some sort of other job to pay for basic bills and food and gas and all of that, rent? So they could be this really talented guitarist on the street, but they just don't have the time to do the consistency that would be required in order to do that for a career. So it's very tricky with consistency and inconsistency, because you have to be consistent enough to even get there in the first place, but there's so many other factors involved with that in terms of you getting to where you need to go, that it can be hard. The balance of what you put out versus what you don't put out, how often you're doing it, and the natural psychology of people getting discouraged if they don't feel like it's getting support. But you have to go for it. You have to have some sort of consistency. You have to be aware of where you are in the game. Like I mentioned before with YouTube content, when I started at 0 subscribers, it took me a year to get 40. Just naturally, you're not going to be as motivated to do that as you are where now I'm getting about 40 subscribers every 3 weeks. So you're just not going to be as motivated. And it's not that, oh, well, I only got 40, so I'm going to stop YouTube, but it's just a natural progression of how that works. This is actually a perfect example, too, with a helicopter flying over. Now that I'm using this microphone, I can test and see how much of the audio is being picked up right here and how good of quality it is. But just going back to the example I used, this was perfect. Someone actually just gave me this morning. So in between yesterday's segment versus now, I didn't have the microphone at the beginning part of the video. Now I do. I can kind of see the difference of that, and also go over the point I'm making about if YouTube was this thing where if you had this high quality camera, high quality microphone, high quality equipment, that was this guarantee that you were going to blow up and make a bunch of money on YouTube, you could still go to that family member and say, hey, can I have $10,000 for this camera? And they're not going to see YouTube as a career. So you say, okay, well, you don't owe me the $10,000, I'm going to go get it myself. And so you go and make the money, and you go and put out the content. And then if you do blow up on YouTube, that same family member might be like, well, how come you didn't tell us you were doing this channel? It's like, well, if I tell you, you're not going to believe it. If I ask for help on it, you're not going to give me the financial help. So, you do what you got to do. So right now, selling my products for La Jolla Cove Headwear, the business I started, yeah, part of the consistency, like people say, oh, you would blow up on YouTube if you did 3 videos a day. Well, I've done 3 videos a day before, and I've done a video every week. I've been consistent and inconsistent with it just based on the timing of things. But I have to pay for bills. If YouTube's not in a place where I can't pay for bills, I have to do other stuff with my day. And I just like topics coming up naturally. If I have a video topic I want to do or whatever, then I just want to do that naturally, not like, oh, it's Wednesday and that's my weekly schedule. I feel like you get more creative juices flowing that way when it's just kind of in the natural sense. So if you feel like doing 4 or 5 videos a day and that's the natural flow of how it's coming out, then do that. If it takes 1 a week, then do that. If
If you put it down for a couple years and come back, then do that, because there's other stuff going on that a lot of other people might not get or see. But just keep the overall goal there of where you want to go. So like I was saying before, where I have public speaking experience from high school as student body president, where I might want to do some music at some point, or stand-up comedy, or motivational speaking, or get into doing prank videos, or do gardening channel if I ever get yard space to where I can do that. The house I'm living in now that I grew up in, it has yard space. My uncle uses the back for his plants and horticulture and all that. But I'm just saying, if YouTube tomorrow, just because of this microphone, just blows up because, oh, he's got high quality, and for some reason that would be this trigger of just blowing up your channel, and I was making millions of dollars within a few days off of YouTube just because the channel spikes, well, yeah, now I'm in a position where, okay, I can get my own place with yard space, and I might just quit doing my business because YouTube took off. So it's like you don't even know what could or couldn't happen based on just different factors. So that's the thing. That's why I kept my YouTube channel my full name, because I just want to keep it open-ended. I don't want it to be like Mason's Philosophy Channel, or Red Pill 101, or gardening, or cooking, or whatever brand you could have, which is fine if that's what you want to do. But I kept it as my full name because based on where I'm at in life, just do the channel in the way I want to do it.